Commander Vex 9 stared at the holographic display, his three eyes blinking in sequence as he processed what he was seeing. The human fleet had just disappeared. Not destroyed, not retreating, gone, as if it had never existed in the first place. "Sir," Lieutenant Crix's voice crackled through the bridge speakers. "Our scanning arrays are detecting massive energy signatures from the Sol system. Whatever they're doing over there, it's consuming the power output of an entire star." Vex 9 let out a low rumble, the Varn equivalent of nervous laughter. "Of course they are. Because normal warfare is apparently too boring for these bipedal maniacs. The war had been going well for the Galactic Federation. Too well, actually. The humans had put up surprisingly little resistance after their initial defeat at Proxima Station. Sure, they had fought like cornered predators for the first few months. But then something changed. They started pulling back, abandoning colonies, retreating to their home system, like wounded animals seeking shelter. "Admiral Thorne believes we have them cornered," Crix continued, his mandibles clicking with what Vex 9 had learned was the insectoid equivalent of skepticism. "He wants to begin the final assault on Earth within the next rotation." "Admiral Thorne is an idiot," Vex 9 muttered, keeping his voice low enough that only his personal recording device would pick it up. No point in getting court-martialed for stating the obvious. The thing about humans that bothered Vex 9 the most wasn't their violence. Every species in the galaxy was violent to some degree. The Krillians literally ate their enemies alive. The Draconus Empire had turned planetary bombardment into performance art. No, what made humans terrifying was their creativity. When most species hit a wall, they either found a way around it or gave up. Humans looked at walls and thought, what if we just made the wall not exist anymore? "Sir, incoming transmission from Federation Command," the communications officer announced. "Priority Alpha. Put it through." Vex 9 sighed, already knowing this conversation was going to give him a migraine. Admiral Thorne's holographic form materialized in front of him, all four arms gesticulating wildly. The Aquilian leader's gills flapped with excitement. "Commander Vex 9. Excellent news. Our intelligence reports suggest the humans are completely demoralized. Their fleet strength is at an all-time low, and our sources indicate they're ready to surrender." "Sources?" Vex 9 raised one eyebrow. "What sources? Every human colony we've encountered has been completely abandoned. Not evacuated, abandoned. They left everything behind. Food still on tables. Lights still on. Vehicles still running. That's not demoralization, Admiral. That's preparation." Thorne's gills fluttered dismissively. "You're overthinking this, Commander. They're a young species. They don't have the strategic experience of the older races. They simply panicked and ran home to mommy." Vex 9 bit back his first three responses, all of which would have resulted in immediate court-martial. "Admiral, with respect, humans don't panic. They do a lot of things. They improvise. They adapt. They get creative in ways that violate several laws of physics and at least 2 treaties. But they don't panic. Regardless," Thorne continued, his tone indicating the conversation was over, "you will prepare your fleet for the final assault. We move on Earth in 72 hours. The transmission ended. Vex 9 stared at the tactical display. Something was wrong. Very wrong. And he had a growing suspicion that the humans wanted the Federation fleet to come to Earth. The question was #Part 2, the trap in the Sol system. The next 72 hours passed with agonizing slowness. Vex 9 spent most of the time reviewing every piece of intelligence they had on human military doctrine. What he found did not make him feel any better. Humans had a disturbing tendency to turn disasters into victories. The Battle of Luna Base was a perfect example. Completely surrounded and outnumbered 10-1, the human commander had somehow convinced the attacking Krillian fleet to destroy its own command ship by broadcasting false surrender negotiations on an open channel while simultaneously transmitting identification codes that made the Krillian vessels think they were firing on their own forces. Then there was the Siege of New Geneva. Human defenders had held off a 6-month assault not through superior firepower, but by convincing the attackers that the city had already been destroyed. Fake distress signals were broadcast from empty buildings while the real population hid in underground bunkers. Eventually, the attackers gave up and left, believing they were occupying a graveyard. "Sir," Communications Officer Dana interrupted his thoughts. "We're receiving the final attack orders from Admiral Thorne." "Of course we are," Vex 9 muttered. He activated the fleet-wide channel. "All ships, prepare for hyperspace translation to the Sol system, and record this as the moment I officially state for the record that this is a terrible idea." The Federation fleet was impressive. 3,000 ships representing 12 different species and 4 different military doctrines. It should have been enough to overwhelm any reasonable defense. The hyperspace jump went smoothly. Too smoothly. Vex 9 had expected resistance. Human patrols, ambushes, suicide attacks from desperate defenders. Instead, there was nothing. "Scanning the system now, sir," Sensor Specialist Quinn reported. "Minimal energy signatures from Earth. Nothing suggesting active military installations." "What about the Moon, Mars, the Jovian stations?" "All appear to be in standby mode. It's like they just turned everything off and went home." Admiral Thorne immediately opened a fleet-wide channel. "You see? I told you they had given up. All ships form attack formation and proceed to Earth. We'll accept their surrender and be home in time for dinner." Vex 9 watched the fleet spread out in textbook formation. Beautiful, precise, perfect, and completely wrong. "Sir," Quinn said carefully, "I'm detecting unusual readings from Earth's moon." "Define unusual." "It appears to be humming." Vex 9 stared. "I'm sorry. What?" "The entire lunar mass is resonating at a specific frequency. It's almost like the moon exploded. Not partially. Not the surface. The entire satellite came apart at once. Yet instead of scattering into space, the fragments reorganized themselves. Reassembled. Transformed. Into something artificial. Something enormous. Something terrifying. By the eternal void," Vex 9 whispered. "They turned their moon into a weapon." Geometric patterns covered the reconstructed structure. Energy readings suddenly erupted across every sensor in the fleet. This wasn't merely a weapon. It was the largest weapon ever constructed. "Fleet Command, this is Commander Vex 9. He transmitted on the emergency channel. "I strongly recommend immediate retreat. The humans have revealed a planetoid-class weapons platform." "Negative," Admiral Thorne replied instantly. "We outnumber them 3,000 to 1. Continue the attack." "Admiral, they just turned their moon into a gun. It's a bluff." Then Earth began speaking. Not through communications arrays. Not through quantum relays. The entire planet broadcast on every frequency simultaneously. The message was simple. "Since you chose war, let us show you how it's done." The voice sounded human, but beneath it was something larger. Not one voice. Millions. Maybe billions. "Sir," Dana shouted. Massive power fluctuations throughout the system. Every planet, asteroid, and major object is activating. Red symbols filled the tactical display. Mars revealed itself as a fortress. The asteroid belt became a solar system-sized minefield. Jupiter's moons transformed into hidden weapons platforms. "How long?" Vex 9 whispered. "How long have they been planning this?" The human voice answered as though it had heard him. "Welcome to Sol. Population: several billion very annoyed humans. Current status: ready for war." The first shot came from Ceres. What had appeared to be an ordinary asteroid suddenly revealed itself as a particle accelerator the size of a moon. The beam it fired erased the Federation flagship from existence. There was no explosion. No debris. One moment the ship existed. The next moment it did not. "Evasive maneuvers," Vex 9 shouted. But already he understood the truth. They weren't fighting a fleet. They weren't fighting a planet. They were fighting an entire star system that had spent decades transforming itself into the most elaborate death trap in galactic history. 3 months after the Sol incident, as historians were already calling it, Commander Vex 9 stood before the Federation High Council delivering testimony that nobody wanted to hear. The humans possess technology that renders our current military doctrine obsolete, he stated flatly. They have weaponized physics itself. Counselor Drex of the hegemony leaned forward, her crystalline face reflecting the chamber lights. Commander, your report suggests they turned an entire star system into a weapon. Such a feat would require resources and coordination beyond any known civilization. Exactly, Vex 9 replied. We categorized humanity as a developing species because they have only been spacefaring for 2 centuries. What we failed to understand is that they have been preparing for interstellar conflict since the day they left their planet. Prime Minister Gorth made a dismissive gesture. One defensive victory does not make them a galactic threat. The Krillians have defended their worlds for millennia. The Krillians built fortresses, Vex 9 answered. The humans built a solar system that thinks. The chamber fell silent. Before anyone could respond, emergency alarms erupted throughout the council complex. A hologram of Admiral Thorne appeared in the center of the room. His expression was pure panic. Council members, we have a situation. Long-range sensors are detecting massive energy signatures moving through hyperspace. Multiple contacts. They are heading toward Federation space. How many? Counselor Drex demanded. We can't tell. The readings are unlike anything we've seen before. Vex 9 slowly closed his eyes. They're not coming to invade us. Every head turned toward him. They're coming to make a point. 6 hours later, the first human fleet emerged at the edge of Vorthan territory. The entire Federation watched through live tactical feeds. There were only 12 ships. 12. Against more than 3,000 defensive vessels, orbital weapons platforms, and automated defense networks. The human ships arranged themselves into a perfect geometric formation and simply waited. They're not attacking, Admiral Thorne observed nervously. No, Vex 9 replied. They're waiting. For what? I don't know. Then the transmission began. It appeared on every screen, every channel, every frequency, and in every known language. Greetings, citizens of the Galactic Federation. The speaker was a human woman wearing a formal military uniform. This is Admiral Kate Morrison of the Human Diplomatic Corps. Vex 9 snorted. Diplomatic Corps, right? We are here today to address a misunderstanding that occurred 3 months ago when Federation military forces attempted to invade our solar system. Morrison smiled pleasantly. We would like to clarify something. Pause followed. That was not warfare. The smile widened. That was pest control. Silence spread through the council chamber. Even Admiral Thorne stopped breathing for a moment. However, Morrison continued, we understand that different civilizations have different perspectives on conflict. Therefore, we have prepared a small demonstration. One of the human ships detached from the formation and moved toward Voron Prime. The planet's defensive grid activated instantly. Thousands of weapons opened fire. Energy beams, missiles, plasma lances. Enough firepower to sterilize a moon. The human vessel ignored all of it. Not blocked, not absorbed. Ignored. The attacks simply passed through the ship as though it existed in a different reality. Fascinating, Morrison remarked conversationally. Your weapons appear to be calibrated for 3-dimensional combat. She tilted her head. How quaint. The vessel entered Voron Prime's atmosphere and stopped directly above the capital city. Completely untouchable. Completely invulnerable. To the planet's desperate defensive bombardment, Morrison continued in the same pleasant tone one might use to discuss the weather. Now, we could simply destroy your planet. The council members froze. But that would be rude. Another pause. Instead, we're going to demonstrate something more educational. The ship released a small probe. The device descended through the atmosphere, past every defensive system, and landed gently in the middle of the capital city. For several seconds, nothing happened. Then every electronic device on Voron Prime activated simultaneously. Communication systems, medical equipment, transportation networks, industrial machinery, kitchen appliances, everything. and every single device began playing the same song. Commander Vex 9 stared at the tactical feed in disbelief. It was a human song, something called "We Are the Champions." "Your planetary infrastructure is now under our control," Morrison announced cheerfully. "Don't worry, we haven't damaged anything. We've simply demonstrated that your security systems are inadequate." Prime Minister Gorth looked ready to collapse. "How?" he demanded. "How is that possible?" "The probe," Vex 9 said quietly. "It didn't destroy their systems." The realization hit him like a physical blow. "It upgraded them." "Upgraded them?" Counselor Drex asked. "To human technology." Across the chamber, nobody spoke, because everyone suddenly understood the same terrifying truth. The demonstration was only beginning. Admiral Morrison's voice continued calmly. "Now, we understand that some of you may be thinking, this is only one planet. We still possess thousands of worlds, millions of ships, and countless defense installations." She smiled. "And you would be absolutely correct." A brief pause followed. "You did have all of those things." Suddenly, the tactical display exploded with alerts. Human ships began appearing throughout Federation space, not arriving through hyperspace, not emerging from hidden locations, simply appearing, as though they had been there the entire time. Shipyards, military bases, government centers, trade hubs, strategic resource facilities. Every location that mattered now showed human vessels hovering nearby. Vex 9 watched in fascination. The humans had not launched an invasion. They had revealed one that had already happened. "Allow us to introduce ourselves properly," Morrison continued. "We are humanity. We have spent decades studying your civilizations, learning your languages, mapping your infrastructure, and understanding your technology." The music on Voron Prime suddenly changed. Now every device on the planet was playing another human song. "Another one bites the dust." Several council members looked physically ill. "We have been very patient," Morrison said. "Our previous interactions were conducted under the assumption that you were merely confused about our capabilities. Unfortunately, recent intelligence suggests that additional military action against human colonies is still being considered." Her expression remained pleasant. "That cannot be allowed." The chamber grew silent. "Therefore, effective immediately, we are implementing the Guardian Protocol." Every tactical screen in the Federation updated simultaneously. Every military installation, every government defense network, every strategic weapons platform, all marked with the same designation, under human oversight. "This is not an occupation," Morrison explained. "This is a safety measure." Counselor Drex finally found her voice. "You cannot simply take control of the entire Federation." Morrison looked genuinely surprised. "We are not taking control of anything." "You're not." "Of course not." She folded her hands. "We are simply ensuring that nobody makes decisions likely to result in unnecessary violence." The translation systems converted her next word into every known language. "Think of us as babysitters." The collective reaction from the council suggested that the translation had perfectly captured every ounce of condescension. "But don't worry," Morrison continued cheerfully. "We are excellent babysitters. Your governments will continue functioning normally. Your economies will continue functioning normally. Your cultures will continue functioning normally. You simply won't be allowed to threaten anyone anymore." Admiral Thorne looked horrified. "This is impossible. We have encryption systems, defense networks, quantum barriers. There is no way you could have infiltrated our infrastructure without detection." Vex 9 sighed. "Admiral." Thorne turned toward him. "They have been doing exactly that for decades." The realization slowly spread through the chamber. Human diplomatic missions, human cultural exchange programs, human trade agreements, human research partnerships. Every interaction that had once seemed harmless now looked very different. "They weren't studying us," Vex 9 said quietly. "They were installing backdoors." No one argued, because everyone knew he was right. Morrison nodded approvingly. "Excellent deduction, Commander." Then she addressed the entire Federation. We would also like to address the elephant in the room. Yes, we now possess the ability to disable every major military asset in known space. Yes, we could collapse your governments if we wished. Another pause. But we are not conquerors.